Welcome to today's deep dive. You're here, and we are just absolutely thrilled to have you with us today.
Yeah, thanks so much for joining us.
I actually want to kick things off right away by asking you to picture a massive, seemingly invincible system.
Oh, okay. Like a global superpower or something.
Exactly. Think of a global superpower, an untouchable corporate monopoly, like
Oh,
the kind of towering institution that feels like it's just, well, permanently baked into the reality of the world.
right. Something that just feels too big to fail.
Yeah, exactly. And then I want you to imagine it just crumbling overnight,
Yeah.
completely gone.
Man, that is a genuinely unsettling thought experiment
Yeah.
because we have this deep psychological bias where we just assume that big automatically means permanent.
Oh, 100%.
Like we look at something that takes up a lot of space physically or culturally,
Yeah.
and we just assume it must be structurally sound.
But it often isn't.
No, not at all. History is just littered with unsinkable ships and empires that vanished. And the source text we are exploring today unpacks exactly why that happens.
Yeah, so today we are diving into a really fascinating piece of ancient literature. It's the 17th chapter of the biblical book of Isaiah.
And it's a really intense text.
It is. And on the surface, like if you just read it straight through, it sounds a bit like an ancient geopolitical news broadcast.
Right, a lot of military update.
Exactly. It details the impending fall of the great city of Damascus and the gradual weakening of the kingdom of Israel. So it can very easily be misread as just this straightforward ancient warning about military destruction.
Which, I mean, it is that on one level.
Right, but if you stop at the historical surface, you miss this incredibly profound, timeless diagnostic tool that's just hidden right there in the poetry.
Because the deeper philosophy of this text isn't actually about geography, or ancient political borders at all.
No, it's not.
It provides this brilliant, really surgical look at what happens to the human mind and to society as a whole when we rely on the wrong things for our stability.
Which brings us to our roadmap for this deep dive. We're going to explore the vivid imagery of this ancient text, but we're not going to get bogged down in a dry history lecture.
Nobody wants that.
No, definitely not. Instead, we're going to unpack its surprisingly practical applications for your modern life, like right now.
Yeah, bring it into today.
We want to look at how this ancient wisdom provides a framework to radically shift what you rely on, strip away your modern anxieties, and, really understand the psychology of misplaced trust.
And to do that, let's look at how the chapter opens. Because Isaiah just hits the ground running with this theme of the illusion of external strength.
He really does not hold back.
No, the opening verses are striking in their contrast.
They really are. He prophesies that Damascus, which was a massive cultural, economic, and military powerhouse at the time, is going to be taken away from being a city.
Just completely leveled.
Yeah, the text says it will become a ruinous heap. And he also mentions that the cities of Aurora will be completely forsaken.
And we should probably pause here to define what Aurora actually meant to the original ancient listeners.
Right, because it wasn't just some random spot on a map.
Exactly. Aurora wasn't a random collection of towns. These were deeply fortified, highly intimidating border fortresses right along the Arnon River.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so to the original audience, Aurora was the physical embodiment of national security. It was impenetrable defense.
Okay, knowing that makes the next line wild. Because Isaiah says these fortresses will be turned into grazing land for flocks, like where sheep will lie down and none shall make them afraid.
It's quite the image.
It is. So saying Era will become a quiet pasture is essentially like saying the Pentagon is going to be turned into a dog park.
Yes. That is a perfect translation
Yeah.
of the shock value.
Right.
Because what's fascinating here is the sheer deconstruction of what human beings consider strong. You have the ultimate symbol of human intimidation just replaced by grazing sheep.
It's such a complete reversal.
And the text goes on to talk about Israel, too. It says, "The fatness of his flesh shall wax lean, and its glory will thin out."
Meaning all that bulk just disappear.
Exactly. What seemed completely established and permanent just weakens and evaporates.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because this translates so perfectly into our modern concept of visibility versus durability.
Oh, totally.
Like, just because something is growing or expanding or looks incredibly imposing absolutely does not mean it is structurally sound.
Not even a little bit.
I think about this like a viral tech startup. You read the headlines. They have millions of active users, massive hype, this huge, gorgeous downtown office space.
They're everywhere, highly visible.
Highly visible. But if you look under the hood, they have absolutely zero business model. It's just a house of cards.
Yeah, or think about it on a more personal level. You might have someone whose social media feed looks absolutely flawless.
Oh,
Yeah.
the perfect relationships, just the ultimate aesthetic life.
Right. But internally, their mental health is entirely crumbling. The text is diagnosing our constant ingrained tendency to confuse visibility with durability.
But why are we wired to do that? I mean, why do we look at the fatness of the flesh, as the text calls it, and just automatically trust it?
Well, it really comes down to evolutionary psychology.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Our brains are hardwired to equate physical scale and big numbers with safety. It's essentially a herd mentality.
Ah, okay. Safety in numbers.
Exactly. If something is massive, if everyone is talking about it, if it's culturally dominant, our brains release neurochemicals that make us feel secure when we align with it.
We want to be on the winning team.
We do.
Hmm.
But Isaiah's philosophy is pointing out a really hard, contrary truth. Not everything that grows actually lasts.
Which is a tough pill to swallow.
It is. We confuse short-term success with long-term stability. So the collapse of Damascus in this framework isn't just, a sad historical event.
Right, it's not just a history lesson.
No, it's a fundamental lesson about the inevitable collapse of unsustainable structures.
Okay, so if the tech startup collapses and the fortress becomes a pasture, I mean, the obvious panic sets in. What actually survives that kind of total structural failure?
That is the big question.
And the text uses a really fascinating agricultural metaphor to answer that, right? Shifting the imagery completely from crumbling cities to a harvest,
Yes, and it specifically sets the scene in the Valley of Rephaim.
which is significant, right?
Highly significant. The Valley of Rephaim was legendary in the ancient world for being incredibly fertile. It was the breadbasket, just a symbol of massive agricultural yield and absolute abundance,
But the text describes a harvestman coming in and just stripping that abundance away.
just clearing it out.
And the really gripping image for me here is the shaking of an olive tree. After the tree is violently shaken, the text says only 2 or 3 berries remain in the top of the uppermost bough.
Barely anything.
Right, and maybe 4 or 5 in the outmost branches. That is literally all that is left after the shaking.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this is a metaphor for what happens when the excess of our lives is removed.
Big excess.
Yeah. When things get genuinely hard, when the tree of your life is shaken, you find out very quickly what actually matters.
Wow.
Loss and hardship strip away the fluff. They strip away the leaves and the weak branches, and they leave only what is truly foundational.
Okay, wait, hold on. We need to pause here. Because if I'm listening to this, I mean, being violently shaken until you are stripped down to just 2 tiny berries on a branch,
Yeah,
that sounds horrific. Like if I'm going through a really hard time, maybe I lost my job or a long-term relationship is falling apart. The absolute last thing I want to hear is that I'm going to lose a 99% of my branches.
it is terrifying, absolutely.
Yeah.
The text does not shy away from the pain of loss.
No, it sounds brutal.
But look at how the philosophical lens shifts here. The narrative focus isn't actually on the hundreds of olives that fell to the ground.
Okay.
The focus is exclusively on the incredible resilience of what remains under pressure. Those 2 or 3 berries. They
Yeah.
held on. They survived the shaking.
Oh, I see. So it's focusing on the strength of the connection to the branch rather than just the sheer volume of the fruit.
Exactly.
That completely changes the framing.
It shifts the mindset from mourning the loss of the superficial, the things that were fundamentally fragile and were probably going to fall away eventually anyway, to finding deep security in our core foundation.
Wow.
When you realize what cannot be shaken in your life, that is where you find a strange kind of freedom.
Which naturally brings up the core diagnostic question of this entire text. Like, why was the tree shaken in the first place?
Right.
And the text doesn't leave us guessing on this. It argues that they lost their strength because they forgot where their strength actually came from.
Isaiah points directly to the root cause of the structural failure here.
Yeah, he writes that in that day, a person will finally look to their Maker, the Holy One of Israel. And crucially, they will not look to the altars or the groves or the images. And the text gets very specific here, which I found totally fascinating. It describes these false altars as the work of his hands and things which his fingers have made.
That phrase right there, which his fingers have made, that is the key to the whole diagnosis.
Really? How so?
It's about human ego and our deep psychological need for control. We love to rely on man-made systems, our own clever alliances, our own external security nets.
Yeah, for sure. We want to fix it ourselves.
Exactly. The ancient Israelites were relying on these clever political alliances with neighboring empires instead of their foundational spiritual beliefs.
Right?
We build these elaborate structures because tangible things we can touch make us feel in control, and we eventually just fall in love with our own handiwork.
It's almost like we drift into autopilot.
Yeah, we do.
I picture it like someone building an incredibly advanced, state-of-the-art smart home.
Okay, I like this.
Right. They are completely obsessed with the retinal scanners, the automated security drones, the heavy titanium doors. They spend years building the ultimate, impenetrable safe house, but they get so caught up in the cool gadgets that they completely forget to plug the house into the actual power grid.
Oh, wow.
They
Yeah.
fall in love with the work of their fingers, and they ignore the power source. Is that what Isaiah is diagnosing here?
That is a brilliant way to put it, yes.
Yes.
We trust things that feel strong, our bank accounts, our careers, our social status, instead of what actually provides real power and stability.
We trust the titanium doors.
Exactly. And when you build a life disconnected from your core foundation, or in the text's terms, your maker, you are building a smart home with no power.
That is such a vivid picture.
And that disconnection is exactly what triggers panic when the storm actually hits.
Because the moment the grid goes down, we realize the titanium doors won't even open.
You're trapped.
And when we panic, our immediate knee-jerk reaction is to hustle our way out of it. Like we try to outwork the disaster.
Oh, yeah. Just pedal faster.
Right. And the text warns against this exact mindset in verses 10 and 11. It really focuses on the frustration of misaligned hustle.
Which raises a really important question about how we define productivity today. The parallels to modern hustle culture here are just uncanny.
There really are. Isaiah writes that because the people forgot the rock of thy strength, they desperately tried to fix the situation themselves.
DIY salvation.
Exactly. It says they planted pleasant plants and strange slips, and they worked so frantically that the seed flourished the very next morning.
Immediate results.
Right, they achieved this overnight growth. But what was the result of all that frantic effort? The text says the harvest is just a heap in the day of grief and of desperate sorrow.
We really need to look at the why behind those pleasant plants. I mean, why do we hustle like that?
Because we want to fix it.
Well, yes, but also because human beings are completely addicted to the dopamine hit of immediate results.
Oh, that makes sense.
We plant those quick-growing seeds, whether that's a get-rich-quick scheme, a crash diet, or prioritizing really aggressive short-term quarterly earnings over long-term stability.
Just anything for a quick win.
Right. Because seeing a sprout the next morning makes us feel like we are back in control.
We assume effort equals salvation. We think, if I just put in massive, exhausting hours, I can fix this failing foundation.
But you can't.
No. We end up just running incredibly fast in the exact wrong direction.
We try to life hack our way out of foundational instability.
Yes.
But the text makes a profound argument here. Effort does not guarantee results if the foundation is wrong.
Wow.
Productivity without spiritual or foundational alignment, what Isaiah calls the rock of thy strength, just leads to a heap of desperate sorrow. It literally just leads to burnout.
Because you can't outwork a disconnected foundation. You are essentially just cultivating a really impressive, fast-growing garden on the deck of a sinking ship.
That is exactly it. And within the framework of this text, true stability doesn't come from your frantic planting. It comes from internal alignment.
Direction over speed.
Precisely. Direction matters infinitely more than speed.
So when the DIY hustle fails and the ship starts sinking, the world begins to look terrifyingly chaotic.
It feels like everything is falling apart.
And the end of this chapter captures that feeling of absolute, overwhelming panic perfectly. It shifts the imagery entirely away from agriculture to the ocean.
And the ocean, especially in ancient literature, is the ultimate symbol of unpredictable, uncontainable chaos.
It is. Isaiah writes, "Woe to the multitude of many people, which make a noise like the noise of the seas, and to the rushing of nations that take a rushing like the rushing of mighty waters."
It's loud, it's overwhelming.
It sounds like a geopolitical tsunami bearing down on them.
Which is exactly how our massive problems feel in the middle of a crisis.
Oh, 100%.
Whether it's a global financial collapse, a really threatening political movement, or even just a deeply personal tragedy. The threat feels like a roaring ocean that is going to swallow us whole.
But here's where it gets really interesting, because the text does this amazing pivot. The nations are rushing like mighty waters, but then the Maker simply rebukes them.
Just a word.
Yes. And look at the metaphors Isaiah uses to describe how this massive roaring ocean is chased away. He says it is chased as the chaff of the mountains before the wind, and like a rolling thing before the
A
whirlwind.
rolling thing.
Yeah, the Hebrew word there translates to something like a tumbleweed.
A tumbleweed.
Literally a tumbleweed. You're standing there absolutely terrified of a tsunami, and suddenly you're just watching a dry piece of tumbleweed blowing across the road.
That is wild.
And it concludes by saying, "At evening there is trouble, but before the morning he is not."
It is a brilliant juxtaposition, and it really serves as a powerful psychological antidote to anxiety.
How so?
Well, we consistently overreact to temporary chaos. We look at the noise of the seas and we just assume it's the end of the story.
Right, we think the tsunami is going to destroy everything.
But in the worldview of this text, God's ultimate authority reveals the extreme fragility of what we thought was unstoppable.
It turns the roaring tsunami into a piece of chaff blowing in the breeze.
Exactly. Within Isaiah's theology, the individual doesn't have to panic at the sound of the rushing waters because they believe their maker controls the wind.
Oh, wow.
It's an incredibly potent psychological anchor. It shrinks the chaos down to its actual temporary size.
Okay, so let's bring all these threads together. When we step back, Isaiah 17 isn't just an ancient historical footnote about Damascus or Israel.
Not at all.
It operates as a profound diagnostic tool. It shows us that external strength, the imposing fortresses and the viral visibility, is fundamentally an illusion.
Yeah, it reveals that our misaligned hustle, our frantic attempts to plan our own quick-fix security will really only exhaust us.
And it reminds us that worldly chaos, no matter how loud and terrifying it seems at night, is ultimately fragile and temporary before the morning.
It strips away all the noise.
It does. It strips it away so the reader can finally look to their foundational rock.
I think there's a really fascinating final concept to layer onto this.
Oh, what's that?
Well, in modern engineering and software development, there is a practice called chaos engineering, or sometimes intentional stress testing.
Okay, I've heard of this.
Yeah, tech companies will purposely inject failures into their own massive systems. They're essentially violently shaking their own digital tree.
Right, to see what breaks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They do this not to destroy the system, but to locate the hidden vulnerabilities before a real disaster hits.
Oh, that makes total sense.
And the Stoics had a very similar philosophical idea called amor fati, or loving one's fate, where you actually embrace the shaking because it proves what is unbreakable.
Oh, that is such a compelling parallel.
Right. Isaiah's text offers a spiritual version of this concept. The idea that everything man-made will eventually be tested isn't meant to make us live in a constant state of paranoia.
It's not a threat.
No, the shaking isn't a random punishment. It's a diagnostic test. And its ultimate purpose is to make you unshakably free. Because when you realize you are anchored to the only maker who remains when the dust settles, you no longer have to carry the exhausting burden of trying to sustain your own universe.
You don't have to sustain your own universe. I mean, what an incredibly freeing perspective to take away from such an ancient text.
Really?
So, as you look at the foundations of your own life today, how will you apply this information in your life?